Hello, my name is Emma, and in today's lesson, we are going to learn about writing. What kind of writing? Writing letters. Okay, so this is important for people who work in business. It's also important for people who like to write letters to their friends maybe, or to their grandparents in English. Also, it is a very useful video for anyone who is taking the general IELTS test. So if you're taking not academic, but general, this is an important video. And also if you plan to immigrate to Canada and you want to do the Canadian immigration test, which is called the CELPIP, this video will also be useful and helpful to you. Okay, so let's get started. What do I mean by formal and informal? Informal means something you would write to your friends, something you would write to your parents. Well, probably your parents, unless you're afraid of your parents, then you might be more formal. Your classmates, your coworkers. Okay, so this is, it means it's not formal. It's for people you know well. On the other hand, formal English we use with strangers, we use with our boss in the workplace. We use it in these different ways. So it's the English you really have to think about, whereas informal is kind of the relaxed English. So relaxed, serious, okay? So sometimes you will have to write a letter formally, maybe to your boss or your company. Other times, maybe you're on holiday and you want to write a letter to your friend. You'll use informal English. So what is the difference? Let's see. Informal English uses contractions. What are contractions? Didn't, wouldn't, couldn't, haven't, hasn't. So if you see a verb with an apostrophe and then a T, that is a contraction. Okay? It's very important to know this because in formal writing, you don't use contractions. Didn't would be did not. I can write that for you. Did not. Couldn't, could not. Haven't, have not. Can't, cannot. Okay, so that's one major difference. Another major difference between formal and informal writing is the use of idioms, the use of certain expressions. If I'm writing to my friend, maybe I'll say, oh, you know, I've been very under the weather lately, meaning I've been very sick. If I'm writing to my boss, I won't use idioms. If I'm writing a formal letter, I will not use idioms. Those aren't good to use in formal writing. Phrasal verbs. This is another thing we find in informal writing. What is a phrasal verb? It's a verb that has a preposition. Okay, so for example, find, out. Find is the verb, out is the preposition. Go is the verb, up is the preposition. So the preposition adds a different meaning to the verb. Phrasal verbs are very difficult to learn. We have so many of them in English. My students have told me phrasal verbs are one of the hardest parts of learning English. But it's possible. You can do it. So in informal writing, we use phrasal verbs. Whereas in formal writing, what do we use? We don't use phrasal verbs. We usually use longer words that mean the same thing. Example, find out, discover. Discover is more formal. Go up. For example, prices have gone up. Prices have increased. Increased is more formal. Okay. For more of these examples, there will be a list in the resource section of the engVid website. I'll talk more about that later. Next, imperatives. Imperatives are sentences that start with a verb. Don't talk to me that way. Help your mother more. Do your homework. Okay, parents love to use imperatives, and so do teachers. So if you're writing to your friends, you can use imperatives. Send it soon. Maybe your friend has to mail you a package. You write, send it soon. I want it, send it soon. In formal writing, we do not use imperatives. They're too strong. We like to use more polite sentences. You may send it at your earliest convenience. Do you see how much longer the formal is than the informal? Formal writing is usually a lot longer than informal writing. It's not simple sentences, it's long, complex sentences. And you often see words like may, could, would, instead of want, can, okay. So this is one of the main differences. All right, so what are some more examples? For informal, words like very. He's very cool. He's really great. He's totally hot. Okay, these are things you would never say in the workplace, but you might say to your friend. So if you see very, really, totally, informal English, okay? It's okay to use these in letter writing, but not when you're writing to a client, to your boss, in the workplace. On the IELTS, if it says, a formal letter, don't use these words. What about formal? Strongly. I strongly advise you to clean your room. You'd never write that to anyone, but that's an example of strongly. It gives emphasis just like really, very, and totally do. Okay, so I strongly agree. We strongly recommend that you send in your order form as soon as possible. Okay, so you might see the word strongly used in formal writing. Okay, informal writing. You can use these as connectors. Okay, so if you're connecting one idea to another idea, one paragraph to another paragraph, to top it all off, on top of it all. To top it all off, my vacation was ruined because of a blizzard. To top it all off, there was a fly in my salad. To top it all off, the actor in the movie was horrible. Okay? On top of it all, these sort of mean like the last thing you say, the last word on something. On top of it all, she was very rude to me. So these are informal expressions to connect ideas. Here we have some formal equivalents. Furthermore, she was rude to me. Furthermore, the actor was terrible. Okay? So it's the formal way of saying things. Moreover, and all of these are another way to say and. So don't let these words scare you. It's just another way to say also, and. You add another piece of information. Okay, next idea for what's informal use. TV. TV, what is TV? It's an abbreviation. It's the short form of a word. The full word is television. So what does this mean? Do not use abbreviations in formal writing. You can use TV in informal writing. Don't use abbreviations in formal writing. Next idea, exclamation point. In informal writing, you can write exclamation. It's okay. In formal writing, can you do this? No. So no exclamation point. Another difference, in informal writing, you can use the word a lot. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of hobbies. I have a lot to say to you. I have a lot to teach you. In formal writing, the better thing to use is much or many. Okay, so if you write a letter in your company, much, many. Better idea. They all mean a lot. Finally, in informal writing, non-Latin words are common. Now, why do I say non-Latin? For those of you who speak Spanish, French, Italian, these are Latin-based languages. For example, intelligent in French, the English word, the English equivalent, intelligent. So you can see that many words in English have a Latin root. Now, these words are usually more formal. So you don't want to use Latin words. You want to use common words, okay? So non-Latin words, common words, this is in informal writing, but you don't want to use it in formal writing. In formal writing, use Latin-based words. Use uncommon words, okay? That's a characteristic. So I would use the word intelligent. I would use the word instead of smart. Maybe with my friends I write smart. Here I might use intelligent. Okay, so for a full list of some of these words I'm talking about, another example would be kids, children, phrasal verbs, expressions to use in informal writing versus formal writing. For a longer list, you can come visit our website at www.engvid.com. You can also visit our website to do our quiz to see how much of this you remember. Until next time.